Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and the Mega Master League has returned to go Battle League once again. This is one of my favorite all-time formats, so today is a very good day. And in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a newly buffed Mega Pokemon that has risen to top-tier status in this format, and that is Mega Rayquaza. Mega Rayquaza's Legacy move Dragon Ascent got a huge rework this season. It's now 110 base power for only 45 energy. That means Rayquaza is suddenly incredibly fast to fire off Dragon Ascent, and Dragon Ascent still deals absolutely absurd amounts of damage. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. We pick up a very cool lead in game number 1, leading Mega Rayquaza into Mega Mewtwo Y. This is my first time seeing Mega Mewtwo Y in PvP, and it looks like it has access to counter. I'm going to build up past Dragon Ascent, bait with the Breaking Swipe, and my opponent makes a very nice bait call. However, they then make a critical error throwing on alignment, and that's going to let me catch the Side Strike on a Lunala. Lunala is going to be answered with Dialga. This is not really a hard check to Lunala by any means. I'm still going to get some very nice damage onto Dialga. They're eventually going to be able to knock me out, but that in turn could set a pretty nice farm for my Zacian. So, I'm always just going to be no-shielding Lunala. I'm very okay letting myself get knocked out here. Iron Head lands, they get the farm down, but now it's my time to send in Zacian and go for the farm. I feel very okay no-shielding the Iron Head because this just really doesn't do a lot of damage. Iron Head fails to pick up the 2-hit KO, and now I exit up a ton of energy. Back in comes the Mewtwo. I'm going to fire off Close Combat. Close Combat would take the knockout here. Close Combat is going to be shielded. I'm taking quite a lot of damage from the counters, so I send in Rayquaza, and in the back, my opponent has Xerneas. This, in theory, should be a bad matchup for Mega Rayquaza, but look at this. Dragon Ascent is shielded. I'm already at Dragon Ascent number 2. This new pacing is wild. Look at the damage. Dragon Ascent connects. Xerneas gets destroyed. We get farmed down, but I have 2 Protect Shields to hide behind, so all I have to do is shield. The Metal Claw will take the knockout, and my opponent can just simply never win the game with the Mewtwo. Back in comes the Mewtwo. I have no idea what the counts are for Mewtwo, so I will put up the shield, and then under-tap the Close Combat, and we survive our first encounter with Mega Mewtwo Y, as Close Combat takes the knockout, and we get the Game 1 win. Hopping into game number 2, we pick up a slightly negative lead, Mega Rayquaza into Zacian. I'm going to stay in, throw 1 Dragon Tail, and then save switch into Lunala, and my opponent is going to respond with Gyarados. Gyarados in its Mega form is a Water Dark type, and that means they're usually running Crunch, which is double super effective onto Lunala. Lunala's still able to fight back. That Moonblast hit for massive damage, but I know from a Mega Gyarados, I'm just simply never going to survive the Crunch. However, this is an opportunity to get very nice farm with Mega Rayquaza. So I send in Rayquaza, no shield as they fire off the Crunch. I'm going to get a very nice farm down and exit with a Dragon Ascent loaded. In comes Zacian, and I need you to see this Dragon Ascent damage. I fire off Dragon Ascent, huge damage onto the Zacian. I switch my Zacian into theirs, and I'm immediately going to be putting up the shield. They go for the Close Combat in the back. They have Palkia. This could be a bit of a tricky game. Palkia doesn't ever really do a lot of damage with the Aqua Tails, but the speed at which they get Aqua Tails can be a bit problematic for Zacian. I'm going to farm past the double up here, hoping they would try and CMP time me, but they do not. Instead, they're just going to hold on to their energy. I fire off Close Combat, they put up the shield, I fire off Close Combat number 2, and this won't knock out, but it is going to be putting them pretty low. They no shield, I pivot into Rayquaza and get the catch on what I'm hoping should be the Aqua Tail. Mega Rayquaza did get the sneak as well. It is going to be the Aqua Tail. Back in comes the Zacian. I'm able to make it to the Dragon Ascent. The speed of Rayquaza is incredible. Dragon Ascent takes the knockout. We farmed out Palkia. And even with terrible alignment, it just simply does not matter. Mega Rayquaza is that busted. We move to the next match, picking up a very nice lead. Mega Rayquaza into Palkia. One thing I noticed, sometimes Mega Rayquaza will just randomly exit the screen. I have no idea why it does this, but I fire off Dragon Ascent and then save switch into Lunala. My opponent shouldn't ever bait here. They should try and lock in some damage with Spatial Rend, so I put up the shield as they do go for the Spatial Rend, and I'm going to be immediately under-tapping the Shadow Ball. I just want Palkia gone, removed from the field of play. Palkia will get KO'd. My opponent now sends in Dialga, so they're still hiding whatever they have as their Mega in the back. I overfarm, fire off Shadow Ball. My opponent should look to fire off the Roar of Time right before I make my second Shadow Ball. So I throw 3, switch into the Zacian. Tell me I caught the Roar of Time, please. It's a Draco Meteor, but it's still the triple resistant catch. My opponent stays in. They want to rebank energy. In the back, it's Mega Metagross, and we should be in a very good spot. I have so much energy on the Zacian. I fire off Close Combat. That's big damage. I make it to Close Combat number 2, and this is going to be guaranteeing that final shield. This Mega Metagross is running the standard fast move for the Mega Master League, which is Fury Cutter. Fury Cutter does allow Mega Metagross to beat Mega Gyarados, but does mean they don't have a lot of fast move pressure going up against my Lunala and my Zacian. I bring in Lunala, I lock in a charge attack priority type, and that is going to win me the game. Meteor Mash would have taken the knockout, but my Shadow Ball will definitely pick up the KO, and as they bring in Dialga, we get to go for the catch onto Mega Rayquaza. Mega Rayquaza able to absorb that Iron Head no problem, get the Dragon Tail down, and I absolutely love that Mega Rayquaza is once again a playable Pokemon. Unfortunately, there's bad news in the next match as I lead Mega Rayquaza into Mega Metagross. Mega Metagross is a bit of a Corebreaker for this team. Last time, I was at a pretty big advantage when I played against Metagross, but this game, it could get a little bit tricky. I fire off the Breaking Swipe first, just trying to lock in a debuff so I can ensure that I can survive the Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash lands, that does hit for some pretty big damage, and now I'm able to make the Dragon Ascent. Dragon Ascent is resisted on Mega Metagross, but look at the damage output. Mega Rayquaza is just absolutely absurd. I'm able to get huge damage onto the Metagross, and now I get to send in Zacian. Zacian, unfortunately, just can't quite get the farm down. Mega Metagross hangs on, and we'll make it to a -1 Meteor Mash. That still does so much damage, and now I exit with the Behemoth Blade. In comes Palkia. I'm firing off close combat right away, and I'm gonna need Lunala to try and close out the game. In comes Lunala, my opponent reveals they have Dialga in the back, and up a little bit of energy, I do feel like I could be in an okay position. However, if my opponent's able to get me to successfully shield Iron Head baits, maybe the game could get out of reach. I'm firmly outside of Iron Head range. I put up the shield, hoping they go for the Roar of Time, and they do go for the Roar of Time. That is massive. That's quite a bit of energy down the drain for my opponent. Now I can fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will not quite take the knockout here, and that does mean they will be able to hang on and make the Iron Head. Iron Head, not going to do a whole lot in this matchup. They're going to bring back in the Palkia, but I'm able to make the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will pressure away the shield, and then it's time to send in Zacian. Zacian hits the field. I should be outside of Aqua Tail range, and that means I'm guaranteed to win the game. My opponent needs 3 Aqua Tails. They can just simply never get there. Close combat KOs the Palkia, and despite a really rough lead, the team keeps on winning. We get a great lead in the next match as I lead Mega Rayquaza into Primal Kyogre. In this matchup, I like to overfarm massively, shield the first, and then build up to double Dragon Ascent. This way, I can ensure that I'm always winning the matchup. The only shielding scenario that Kyogre wins into Rayquaza is the zeros, because you haven't done enough Dragon Tail damage for the Dragon Ascent to knock out. So if you shield the first and double up, then they're firmly in a range where Dragon Ascent will actually take the KO. My opponent ends up matching shields, I fire off another Dragon Ascent, and they are pretty comfortable playing out the 2s. This works out pretty nicely for me because the 2s are a pretty dominant win for Mega Rayquaza. They fire off another Avalanche. I'm going to go for a 3rd Dragon Ascent. This is going to be knocking out Kyogre, and I will exit pretty close to a 4th Dragon Ascent. In comes Zekrom. I end up saving the Rayquaza, pivoting into Lunala. Now, this would be a pretty crazy switch in the regular Master League where Zekroms run Crunch, but in the Mega Master League, Zekroms need Outrage. Everything is too bulky. My opponent makes an insane catch, catching the Moonblast that was aimed at Zekrom onto their Lugia. Unfortunately for them, even with that catch, it's not going to be enough to save them. They were able to get the catch and sneak, so they outpace and take the knockout. But unfortunately, I have a very strong answer to Lugia in Zacian. So I can just send in Zacian, look to overfarm quite significantly. They can land the Aeroblast, but realistically, it's just simply not going to be enough. Aeroblast would probably need the boost to have a chance to save them, but they do not get the Aeroblast boost, and I can farm up just shy of 100 energy. Behemoth Blade, massive overkill, will take the knockout. In comes Zekrom, and now I get to go for the close combat. I don't think close combat will quite take the knockout here, but if it doesn't, I can just snipe them down with Mega Rayquaza, and we have an entire Dragon Ascent that we didn't even use. We move to the next game, picking up a bit of a negative lead, leading Mega Rayquaza into Dialga. The good news is that even though Dragon Ascent is resisted, this is such an incredibly overpowered move. Look at how much damage this does to Dialga. I fire off Dragon Ascent, they lose 3/4 of their Dialga. I send in Lunala, and my opponent's gonna send in Primal Kyogre. They do farm up to a Thunder, and that's going to force me to put up a shield. I cannot let this energy go to waste. Unfortunately, they bait me with the Avalanche. Very nice play. But putting up shields in a matchup where I'm a non-Mega and they're a Mega is usually a feels bad because the longer the matchup goes on, the more dominant it is for the Mega due to their absolutely insane stats. First Shadow Ball is shielded. I'm able to land the second Shadow Ball. My opponent unable to get the farm down as Lunala would have made it to another Shadow Ball. That's going to force out an Avalanche. Now I can bring in Rayquaza, look for the full farm down, but I can't quite get it. They survive on 1 HP, and that forces me to go for an Avalanche catch on a Zacian. Avalanche still did quite a lot of damage. In the back, my opponent has Palkia, and this still feels like a pretty tough game to win. My opponent still has over an Iron Head banked on the Dialga, and that means I can never shield my Zacian. Aqua Tail lands, I fire off the close combat. I'm going to try and make it to close combat number 2, but my opponent should be able to outpace. I try and make the close combat. I'm unable to get there, and I can't use the shield. The shield is promised to the energy from Dialga. I bring in Rayquaza, make it to the Dragon Ascent, but they get the game-winning catch onto Primal Kyogre. That is absolutely devastating. And at this point, I think I just end up stopping tapping because I know there's just no path forward for me in this game. Very well played to them. They're going to farm down my Mega Rayquaza, and unfortunately, this team takes its first loss. We move to the next match, and our nemesis has returned, Mega Metagross. This Mega Metagross has opted for Shadow Claw. Shadow Claw does make the matchup considerably worse. However, I can still survive one Meteor Mash. So I end up no shielding, and I'm just going to look to build up to the back-to-back Dragon Ascents. My opponent tries for a catch onto Zacian. Zacian would still take huge damage from Dragon Ascent, but I decide that I'm going to end up saving all that energy for later and bringing in Lunala. Unfortunately for me, Lunala is never going to be able to Shadow Claw down after landing the Shadow Ball, preventing them from making the Behemoth Blade. So I'm actually going to go for an Undercharge. This should allow me to double shield, but exit up a ton of energy and be able to outpace the Mega Metagross. So I go down 2 shields, my opponent pivots back into the Metagross, but it's just too little too late. I have so much energy on Lunala. I fire off the Shadow Ball, that will be shielded. I make it to Shadow Ball number 2. Now I'm just going to stay in here and get whatever Shadow Claw damage that I can get onto the Metagross. My opponent actually fires off the Meteor Mash. They did not want to take those Shadow Claws to potentially put them into Dragon Ascent range. I do have an idea though. I'm going to bring in the Zacian and try and Metal Claw them into a range where I can knock out with the Dragon Ascent. So I bring in the Zacian, I'm farming up, I pivot into Rayquaza, and I go for the Dragon Ascent. This has to KO. I fire off the Dragon Ascent. It does not. They survive, and they send in Eternatus. I go for the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe into Eternatus will hit for big damage, but unfortunately, I think I just lose this game. The Metagross has a Charge Attack banked. My Zacian is never going to win Charge Attack priority against Mega Metagross. So I farm up to 100 energy, fire off the Behemoth Blade, but at this point, I've resigned myself to the fact that I have lost this game. Behemoth Blade takes the knockout. In comes Metagross. And this is when I learned that Zacian wins Charge Attack priority over Mega Metagross. I assumed Mega Metagross would always win that Charge Attack priority type, but apparently it does not. And we're able to survive Mega Metagross. Unfortunately, we are back facing Mega Metagross in the next match, but this one is going to be on Fury Cutter. Fury Cutter feels a lot easier for the Rayquaza to deal with, just because that way you don't have that fast attack pressure. Metagross launches Meteor Mash that hits for big damage, and because they're on Fury Cutter, I actually don't really fear the fast attack pressure here on Lunala. So I bring in Lunala, no shield as they fire off the Meteor Mash, and my opponent ends up switching into their own Lunala. I overfarm massively here, fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to be no shielded. They get one shot, and I am very happy to get their Lunala off the field. In comes Palkia. Palkia does get a big farm down. I bring in Rayquaza, fire off the Dragon Ascent. I did debate going for the Breaking Swipe here, but I just wanted to lock in as much damage as possible before I sent in the Zacian. Now I'm up a shield, and that should put me in a very, very good position. Palkia's Aqua Tails really don't do much. It's only when they make it to Aqua Tail number 3 that Zacian really has to care. So I no shield the first, no shield the second, and I can continue to look to try and overfarm. They're not in a range where close combat will knock out just yet. They're able to make it to Aqua Tail number 3, but with these Metal Claws, they're getting ever closer to KO range. So I farm up just shy of the back-to-back close combats, firing off close combat number 1, they will put up the shield. I go for close combat number 2, they catch onto the Mega Metagross, but this is still going to be very valuable damage. Close combat connects, I can pivot into Rayquaza, and look at this, Rayquaza gets the full farm down, we exit with the Dragon Ascent loaded, and this is going to be so long. Good night to Palkia. Palkia gets shredded by a neutral Dragon Ascent, and that's a good game. Hopping into the final match, we lead Mega Rayquaza into Primal Kyogre. My opponent's going to pivot out of the matchup. They save switch into Lugia, and I have a very strong answer to Lugia with my Zacian. Zacian has a very commanding matchup, even though Aeroblast is an incredibly overpowered move, because Zacian is so bulky. As long as they don't get that pesky Aeroblast boost, then you're always going to be able to survive 2 Aeroblasts, and they can't ever really farm you down. I launch Behemoth Blade that hits for some pretty monster damage. They're going to fire off another Aeroblast. Now my question is, can I actually get the farm down, or will I be forced to throw a close combat? It's not by much that I'm able to hang on here, but I commit to the farm down and I'm able to get there. I don't think I'm surviving the waterfall, so I just fire off the close combat on alignment just to get some damage onto the Kyogre. Kyogre is going to no-shield. I bring in Rayquaza. In the back is Zacian, and this game is just over. Even if I ended up no-shielding Lunala, I could still win the game with the 2-shield Rayquaza, but I figure shielding once does make quite a bit of sense, because this way I can always guarantee that I can make double Shadow Ball. And double Shadow Ball is just going to do simply way too much. The Shadow Claws are adding up. They end up no-shielding the first, but there's just no way out. I'm able to make it to Shadow Ball number 2. They have to save the energy. They put up the shield. There's the pivot into Kyogre, but I can respond with Mega Rayquaza. Dragon Ascent will lower my defense, but I'm just simply always going to outpace. Kyogre will put up the shield. They have to try and double up. They cannot get there. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, Mega Rayquaza is back in a way that maybe it never has been before. It was pretty irredeemably terrible after the nerf to Breaking Swipe, but with the massive rework to Dragon Ascent, with Dragon Ascent now being way cheaper, honestly, I think Mega Rayquaza is now one of the best Megas that you can use in this format. The fact that Mega Rayquaza, despite being completely walled by Crown Form Zacian, actually has a pretty playable matchup there is absolutely hilarious. Now, to clarify, I still switch out of the Zacian lead as Mega Rayquaza, but in an endgame scenario, the ability to cleanly 2-hit KO it with resisted Dragon Ascents is just absolutely stupid. There's no way Mega Rayquaza should be allowed to do that. The fact that Mega Rayquaza absolutely destroys the Primals, it does really, really well into Gyarados, who are able to win the 0s and 1s just by virtue of waiting for them to fire off their energy and then building up to the back-to-back Dragon Ascents. Like, there's so many Pokemon in this meta that it has such amazing play into. It basically beats all of the supporting cast Pokemon. Like, if you lead into Xerneas and you stay in and fire off a Dragon Ascent, Xerneas survives, but is basically like 90% of their health is gone. It is absolutely unreal how strong Mega Rayquaza is. I think that a lot of teams are going to try and build with Mega Rayquaza in mind going forward, because this Pokemon is an absolute terror. Now, I know a lot of people have asked, Henry, where are the Mega Mewtwo videos? Unfortunately, both Mega Mewtwo's that I got from the Go Fest are terrible IVs, so I did not want to invest the XL candies. However, I did have some people reach out and offer some Mega Mewtwo footage in the Mega Master League, so the Mega Mewtwo videos will be coming this week. It won't be me playing, but at the very least, we'll get to see Mega Mewtwo rain absolute terror upon the Mega Master League. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do leave a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't been already. And I do want to give an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is so sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.